Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Prism. Now, there have been many people that have immigrated and continue to immigrate to other countries. Some have been forced to come back because of their children and problems that they faced within their family and the younger generation being in a particular host country. Also, there have been many people who have gone to other countries and have married from other countries. Now, these also have their set of problems in certain cases and problems for the children. So tonight we talk about the issue of bicultural upbringing and interracial marriages with our guest host, Dr. Walid Khalid Abdul-Hamid. Good to have you with us. He's written a number of different articles regarding mental health and bicultural upbringing. So it's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
All right. Let's begin, Dr. Walid. What is the problems? Why do we have so many problems that take place, or many psychiatric problems that take place because of bicultural or interracial marriages?
Thank you, Ms. Nahmei. Before coming to the program, I looked at the Encyclopedia Britannica and found the definition of culture as the complex whole, which include knowledge, belief, art, morals, law, customs, and any other capabilities or habits acquired by a person as a member of a society. So it is understandable as a person moves from one culture to another to face a lot of difficulties, having sort of different beliefs, different morals, different legal system in a different country. This is sort of the negative aspect of the interaction. On the other hand, it is possible to look at this way of moving to a different culture as having a positive, new sort of having the best of two worlds, a person that are that have the best knowledge, capabilities of two different cultures. But it is very important that for a person to be able to get the best equation of moving from one culture to another, to be well prepared to what is called in the literature as the culture shock of moving from one different culture, which is the mother culture, to the host culture where he's going to live or bring their children up, or even get married from sort of a person from the host culture. And it is very important for the person to be well, sort of have a well-defined idea about their culture and the host culture, and how they can accommodate these two cultures in equations like living, working, marrying, having children, and as I said, being prepared in dealing with the situation that might arise from the difficulty of sort of the meeting of the two cultures. In addition to that, I think it is very important to talk about children because they are more sensitive to this conflict or this culture shock. They are the sensitive party in the whole process of bicultural upbringing. It is very important for them to be well acquainted with their own culture, so that they don't have, because one major problem of living in a different culture is the sense of alienation, i.e. feeling that they are alone in this world, everything around them is different. And the way of trying to reduce that is having a good sense of where they are coming from, having good knowledge about their original culture, and that comes from, of course, the parents educating their children about the culture, the religion, the language, in addition to having contact with the local community, the sort of the mother community. For example, there is an Arab community in different European countries and in America. And this is important, it's essential for an Arab person or family immigrating to a European or an American society to be in touch with the Arab community there so that they can share the experiences of alienation, the different problems that might arise from the process of the culture shock, and they can get the experience of how to deal with it in different ways.
Dr. Walid, you said, you mentioned the fact that alienation is one of the problems that is dealt with in a situation of a bicultural upbringing, or someone who has immigrated to a different culture, or in cases of interracial marriages.
Yes.
What are some of the other mental health problems? I know you've worked on articles such as these that you find.
Indeed, there are many problems that are due to the fact of lack of understanding of the host culture, and also the interaction between the mother culture and the host culture. Like, for example, children who are not well equipped to deal with issues relating to the religion or culture, they might raise questions about why don't they eat meat, for example, pork, while their colleagues at school, and that would be a great shock to the child to find himself alone, that he cannot eat pork while the other children can eat pork. In addition to that, there is, I mean, understandably in any culture, there is a sense of racism against any foreign culture that in the host culture. And of course, the degrees of this racism differ from one culture to another. And it is very important, what I said about being in a party of the community, the mother community, so that they can work together to try to change the legal framework about racism, and also to change the stereotype of the people in the host culture about their mother culture. There are a lot of wrong beliefs about Islam, about Arab people, and I think there are many organizations that work very hard to try to change these stereotypes. And it is important to be part of this process, not only to change these systems, but also for the person to feel part of the process and to lessen the sense of alienation and the sense of confusion. I think we talked about alienation, but also the other problem with the children is confusion. Where am I coming from? Why don't I look like the children from the mother or the host country? And this is very important to try to make them understand where they are coming from by being part of the community, the Arab community in the West or in the host country, and also by having regular contacts with the mother country, going to visit the Arab world and meeting friends and relatives and the extended family to have the benefit of learning from their experience, and having the child knowing where they come from. This is the importance of children knowing they come from a culture they could be proud of, a culture that is very rich, and then they won't have the sense of confusion or alienation indeed.
You talk again about solutions, Dr. Walid, some of the issues that can help a child to deal with alienation, or even the whole household or the whole family unit to deal with alienation. Let me rephrase my question. Are there other mental problems that are caused because of bicultural upbringing and because of things that maybe the older generation didn't pay attention to concerning their children who are in certain situations, are adults now, where it caused, for example, can bicultural upbringing or interracial marriage cause the younger generation to have depression?
Yes,
and other issues such as these?
Yes, of course. The alienation and confusion are sort of problems that might lead to mental health problems. They are not mental health problems in their own, i.e. they are not a diagnosed psychiatric problems, but they can lead, if they are left without management, without dealing with them, they could lead to major psychiatric problems. not only depression, but also even more severe psychiatric problems like schizophrenia and other severe psychiatric disorder. And there are sort of some cultural groups, immigrant cultural groups, that have very high incidence in research of very severe psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia. And that's because, as I said, these two factors, the alienation and the confusion, play together to make the person unable to deal with the new culture, the host culture, and so they either withdraw and not be able to have normal life in this host culture, or be hostile to the host country without a reason. Of course, sometimes people become hostile because of racism and other things. But on many occasions, people become hostile because of this sense of confusion and alienation, and they sort of, it is like a reaction, uncontrolled reaction to the fact that they don't know where they are come from. So they go back to a mythical sort of being rather than the real culture they should have been brought on and they could be proud of. They go into a more mythical, fanatic form of culture. They think this is their culture. And there where the sort of problems arise. People become hostile and depressed, withdrawn. And that leads to different psychiatric problems, including depression, and even more severe psychiatric disorders.
What about in the cases, Dr. Walid, where, for example, we've seen many circumstances where the parents will bring back their children to their mother country at an older age, but this state of alienation doesn't go. Why? What is the cause of this?
Well, this again really relate to what we were talking about not preparing children and not making them aware of their own background. So, of course, as I said to you, if they are not in touch with their own culture, if they have lived all these years in the West, only knowing sort of a mythical form or idea, fantasy about the mother country, when they go back, they cannot reconcile or concile the mythical or the fantasy image of their mother country with the real life country they are going to. So that's why it is very important to keep in touch with the local Arab community, to have regular visit to the Arab world and the mother country, so that the child will have the real image about their own culture for their health, whether they stay in the West or in the host culture, because then they will have a strong base. Their belief, they know where they come from, so they won't develop the sense of alienation, and also they can develop a healthy relationship with the host culture based on their knowledge about their own mother culture.
All right. Dr. Walid, we want to take a break, but we'll be back with you to discuss more about bicultural upbringing and interracial marriages. So stay tuned. We'll be back with Dr. Walid. We're back now with Dr. Walid Khalid Abdul-Hamid. He's telling us about bicultural upbringing and interracial marriages and how they impact children, and the best way to try to operate to create the healthiest state of mental health. Now, you talked about one aspect, Dr. Walid, and this was for families to keep contact with their background, so that there is a sense of pride for that child regarding the background that they came from, or the mother country that they came from. In certain aspects, though, certain situations, and you said that this will also help eliminate the alienation when they come back to their mother country. Now, there have been situations where certain advice like this has been taken to an extreme by the family, where they alienate them from the host family. They united them only with the culture of their mother culture, and they alienate them completely from the host country that they're in. And even then, these children come back to their mother country at a later point in time and have the same sense of isolation, maybe in a different perspective, but the same sense of isolation. Why is that?
Well, as I said earlier, it is very important for the person who is immigrating to a different culture to try to have the best of the two worlds. It is very dangerous to try to encapsulate the person or the family into the sort of the mother culture without having interaction with the host country. It is a worthwhile experience traveling, and people sort of, even throughout history, people wrote books about the benefits of traveling and wrote poetry about the subject. So, as I said, the sense of isolation will create in the mind of the child and even the adult a sense of even more alienation and a sense of a fantasy about a culture that is not in the real world. Because the reality is that he is living in a different country. He has to sort of know that he belongs to a different culture, but he has to relate to the new culture, to the host culture. He has to excel, he has to work, study, work, and achieve and prove himself. Otherwise, the withdrawal will create the wrong sense of being, of identity, and will create even more problem. Even if they go back to the mother country, the image about where they come from doesn't even apply to their mother country. They believe in a more fantasy world so they will have another culture shock of a different country they dreamed about when they go back to the country. So that again brings us again to the importance of keeping in touch with the original mother country with a normal contact, and trying to achieve in the new culture, and trying to get the benefit of living in a different culture, trying to get the best of the two worlds.
For example, you mentioned that, Dr. Walid, but if you would explain it a little more clearly, because, for example, I mean, you mentioned that when Arab Muslims immigrate, they have this kind of problem with the younger generation in cases of the ham or the alcohol in certain, so they fear it, the families fear it. But even among, for example, Christian Arabs who immigrate abroad, they have similar problems because they have a conservative, usually set of rules, and they have the same kind of problem. To what extent should a parent discuss certain things with the child? To what extent should the parent create the boundary or the elasticity in the boundary? Because this is a very confusing, for many families, they prefer not to immigrate because of this particular fear, the fear of confusion of a child. How should they address this fear, and what is the border?
Yes, well, as I said earlier, the key issue here is being able to accommodate the two cultures in a very flexible way, i.e., the major problem is denial, i.e., either denying the fact, I mean, on an unconscious level, either denying the fact that they are in a different culture or denying the fact that they are from a different culture. So believing that they are from a different culture but living in the host culture and teaching that to their children, because I said a lot of people leave that, forget that, and deny either they deny the fact that they are from a different culture and bring their children completely as, for example, Westerners, and that's a problem, or they bring them completely in isolation of the host culture as they are from and that, again, as we explained, have its own problem. So it is important to explain to the children that they come from a different culture, that they are living in this Western, more sort of technologically at least more advanced country. They could benefit from the education in it. So i.e. having an open-minded about the benefits and the problems. So explaining what benefits could be there and make it clear what benefits, the positive and the negative aspects of living in foreign culture. But it is important not to deny, as I said, the major problem for parents is this sense of denial, and it could work both ways, either denying the fact that they come from a different culture and bring their children completely as they are from the host country, and then when they go to the children, to the school, for example, they discover by the interaction with their peer group they are different, and then there will be problems. Or they bring them completely as they are from the sort of the mother country, and then this also have its own problems, as makes sense. So mixing the two, so having as I said in the beginning, having the best of the two worlds, and trying to select the best sort of values and from the two cultures. I mean, there are many good things in the West, there are many good things in the East, and there are many bad things in the West, there are many bad things in the East. And I think it is very beneficial for the children to be able to have the best of the two worlds in the upbringing. So it is very important for the parents not to deny the fact, at least on the conscious level, not to deny the fact they come from a different culture and they are living in a different culture. They have to accommodate for their own culture and accommodate for different culture and bring the children to be able to do so.
I see. Would you say sort of setting a guideline of the type of things that they would like to have their children learn if they're going to immigrate or so on and so forth, and setting these guidelines but appreciating saying that, for example, if they're immigrating to the West, to say that these are the guidelines of the West, I have to accept that these things may happen or that my child will ask, and this is how I will approach it. Is it a step-by-step process of trying to do?
Well, I said, yeah, it is a step-by-step process, and it is very important to have sort of let the children know about the new culture, with the same time teaching them about what's happening, telling them what is sort of acceptable, not acceptable, and why. And we can get the benefit of having people from the same culture who live there for a long time, and having the children in a bigger group than only the family, to be able to learn from the other children who are probably older about what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, what is what we should value in our own culture, and what should we accept from the new culture. But I think it is a more major problem when in mixed marriages.
Yes, and this is my next point.
Yes.
In interracial marriages, when the parent is from one country and the other parent is from another country, and this is the mother and father within the household. How do you address situations like this?
Yes, that is a major problem that have to be addressed very clearly. And as you said, people have to agree on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, because as they say, love is great, but marriage is supposed to be for sort of for life. And then they have to agree about initially, before they have children, what their expectation, both of them, of the children to be brought up, what sort of cultural or religious background they want their children to be brought up. Like, for example, some religions have their own prescriptions. Like in Islam, for example, it is supposed that the children follow the father's religion. But that unless this is negotiated, it will be a major problem later on. So maybe the husband who is from Arabic or Muslim background, suppose that because there is the marriage and that the wife accepted that the children are brought up in sort of Muslim background without really discussing that. And then that will be a major problem later on. So it is very essential that these issues are discussed before they have children. Otherwise, the children will suffer. I mean, divorce is very frequent in these cases from studies that has been done. And other studies showed that divorce have a major negative consequences to the mental health of children. This study showed that even parents staying with problems and discord is better than having divorce and the children not having the two parents. But of course,
each study can be different.
But the point I'm trying to make is it is better not to leave things till a later point and then a point of discord and problems. It's very important to discuss issues, make things clear, what both, I mean, of course, each parent will see the children as part of them and they want them to be brought up in their own culture. But of course, there should be agreement about what's part of the culture should be exposed to.
Exactly. I mean, Dr. Walid, I mean, you said an aspect that which was, you discussed an aspect of interreligious marriage.
Yes.
But in cases where it's just an interracial marriage, you sometimes have similar problems because even when there is agreement, for example, if I want to discuss the interreligious marriage, the cultural difference creates a problem for the children. In the case of just standard interracial marriage, where the faith may be the same, but they're from two different cultures, that cultural difference creates sometimes a problem even when the two couple have discussed it prior to marriage and have discussed it throughout marriage. How do you address situations like this?
Well, I only really give the religion as an example.
And how do you allow it not to interfere with the child's healthy upbringing?
Yes, sure. Well, it is the same applies to other cultural, the other aspects of the culture. I mean, I really emphasize the religion only because there is, in some religions, there is this prescription about what the children should follow. But the same applies to other aspects of the culture. The language, for example, which language the children should take. Other customs, when they get married, the children, what sort of form of ritual they should follow. These things should be discussed very clearly before the couple have children, because it could be, and from experience of seeing patients and even friends and colleagues, it could be a major problem that could lead to long-term discord and divorce, which is a problem major problem for the children, both the discord and the marriage. So yes, the same applies to all the aspects of the culture. The couple should agree on what they want their children to expose to and follow from the different aspects of the two cultures.
All right. Dr. Walid, we've been pretty much setting the standards or putting guidelines for those, for example, who do want to immigrate or who haven't gone through the process or who haven't taken the steps towards interracial marriage. But what about those who already have adult children who have come back to their culture and they've already been raised in a bicultural upbringing? How should they deal with their circumstance? And in the case of, for example, interracial marriage, it's already been done and over with. How should they deal with their circumstance?
Yes. Well, I mean, you are talking about what we call in medicine in general, we were talking about the primary prevention, but we are talking now about the secondary and tertiary prevention. If the problem happened, how we could deal with it. I mean, regarding the mixed marriages problems.
If the situation
happens. If the situation arises, of course, there are many healthy and happy mixed marriages. But if there are problems, then people should seek in the normal way marital guidance. But there are nowadays more culturally more sensitive counseling services that could address the unmet cultural needs and identify where are the cultural conflicts. Because if the counselor is from the host country, he might not see the origin of the problems and don't see the sort of the person from a different culture, the guest culture person point of view. So it is very important to be able to have the benefit of an organization or these therapists who have the ability or the experience with multicultural issues so that they can address, because in these circumstances, usually culture is in the heart of the mental health problems that arise or even the marital problems that arise. So unless these issues are addressed, it is very difficult to really remedy the situation. Similarly, if in terms of the children or adolescent people who developed psychiatric problems or conduct problems, again, it is very important to make sure that they are in touch with therapists and psychiatrists and therapeutic organizations that have the experience of dealing with multicultural issues and bicultural upbringing and the problems that arise from them. Otherwise, perhaps and most probably, the therapist might miss the problems at the heart of the whole situation, which is the cultural problems. So nowadays there are many people who are so specialized in, and many clinics indeed specialized in dealing with problems that arise from bicultural or multicultural marriages or upbringing or so on and so forth.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Walid. That's all the time that we have for tonight's program. It's been great having you on our program. Again, our guest for the night is Dr. Walid Khalid Abdul-Hamid. He's a visiting psychiatrist from the United Kingdom. He's written quite a number of articles on mental health and bicultural upbringing and mental health and homelessness as well. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Send us your letters and emails and faxes. We will be responding, and the topics that you suggest will be taken into consideration. In the meantime, keep us tuned in, and until next time, good night.